Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Integrated ALM, Automation Beyond a Single Vendor Toolset. Our guest speakers today are Mr. Puranjoy Chatterjee, Director Projects at Kovair Software, and Mr. Somnal Chaudhary, Manager Sales Engineering at Kovair Software. Mr. Puranjoy has been associated with Kovair for more than 13 years and heads the engineering team for integration framework. He is responsible for solution design, development, and delivery for major customers in Omnibus integrations. Mr. Somnal has been associated with Kovair for more than 7 years, being involved in defining and developing solutions for Kovair customers. His main focus is to provide on-site and offshore consulting services for complete ALM and Omnibus integration solution implementation and managing projects for Kovair products for the customers. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Puranjoy.
Good evening, everyone. I am Puranjoy Chatterjee, and I will be starting with the presentation. So today we will be presenting the topic Integrated ALM, Automation Beyond the Single Vendor Toolset. With me I have Shomunil, whom just now we got an introduction for. So we'll start with the presentation right away. Today's agenda, we will be covering certain topics. First of all, why integrate ALM tools, then how to integrate ALM tools, then features to look for in an integration solution. A real-life scenario will be shown where different tools are being used in an ALM, and then it will be followed by a product demonstration by Shomunil, where we'll be showing a use case which we had configured for one of our customers. Firstly, why integrate? The first thing that we get out of integration is we get to see the data from across the tools. So in our entire ALM scenario, multiple tools are being used in multiple silos. So for requirements management, we have different tools. For test management, we have different tools. We have other set of tools for the development and maybe another for reporting. So it's important to see the data across all these tools. Whoever is working on test management should be able to know if some data is changing in the requirements management tool. Next is the traceability between objects in different tools. So change management and impact analysis, if one artifact changes in one of the tools, the other tools should get synchronized. The users of the other tools, they should get notified that this particular item changed, and because of that, it has an impact on the items that I am working on. So that is achieved by the traceability. Another important thing that integration brings to the table is process automation across tools. What this means is that we may sometimes have some process or workflow done within a particular tool, but that workflow does not span across that tool to other tools. This means that whatever is happening within that tool may still be controlled by a workflow, but it cannot be used to control other tools, users of other tools. So an integration scenario or integrated ALM should be able to enforce certain processes or workflows which span across different tools. This also helps us to do some governance across distributed teams. Next, we get dashboards and reports with consolidated data from the tools. Meaning a typical scenario, if a project manager asks for some consolidated reports which needs data from the dev team, from the test team, then somebody will have to get busy. Somebody will have to ask for data from the different dev tools and from the testing tools, sit down, put this data in Excel, and create some consolidated metrics, and then come back to the project manager. So all this thing probably takes a few hours. And also, as and when the data is being shown, it might already be obsolete. There may be changes happening within those source tools which are no longer synchronized with this Excel. And finally, it improves the integrated ALM improves velocity of the entire project team. So if we can reduce 4 or 5 hours of work, of manual work, from this kind of a report generating scenario, then you can imagine what happens if this entire ALM scenario is integrated and nobody is wasting any time to get data from other tools. So real-time synchronization of changes in artifacts, this helps us reduce a lot of time, and the entire velocity of the project team is impacted by this. Next, we come to the benefits of integration. First, we get greater insight. We get to see what is the quality of the current release that we are working on, which part is not yet stable, what corrective actions are needed. So these kind of matrices are available. Next, we get to enact the best practice processes. So how do we ensure that your corporate methodology and processes are adopted across your organization through the application development lifecycle stages? So an integrated ALM is a good way of ensuring that the processes are being followed across all the teams which are related to this project. Then it helps us to overcome challenges for globally distributed development. So typically nowadays, some team is in India, some more people are working from probably US or Australia and maybe China. So how do you synchronize these people? They are working on different time zones. There are a lot of phone calls and emails typically fly around to get these people to work on a particular artifact. But that can be easily achieved using an integrated ALM scenario. Then it enables collaboration between different stakeholders. So how do I see my task or work items from within my tool? If I have to go and open up another tool to see what task I should work on today, so that's not good usage. Typically, if I'm a developer, I should get to see my task within my IDE. And when I check in my code files from the IDE, I should be able to associate it with the particular work item I'm working on. So instead of hopping around in multiple applications, and sometimes it can be expensive, you need to have the licenses for those applications also. So it's much better and faster if we get to do everything from the same IDE that I work on. So that's also highlighted in the last point, that it increases the productivity and helps us to deliver faster. So across all the teams, all the silos are broken and everything gets synchronized real time. People get to work on latest artifacts and not on obsolete items. Finally, this brings about a lot of customer satisfaction. We can actually deliver products with a better quality and on time, and maybe even before time. A lot of rework is no longer required. So that is one of the biggest advantages of having an integrated ALM scenario. You don't need to do, you can avoid a lot of rework. So for example, if a requirement that got changed and the testers or the test management team did not get notified about that in time, then probably 5 or 6 testers have been busy creating test cases on that particular requirement, and then they finally get to know, even if say they get it 1 day later, so you can well imagine 8 hours into 5 testers, so we have already lost 40 hours of productive time. So that kind of time we can save, we can improve on the quality, we can build on things which are relevant and not work on any obsolete items. Any amount of rework actually reduces the motivation of the developers, testers, and it should be avoided at any cost, and it also helps us to improve the quality. Then we can collect actionable metrics and intelligence which can help us to reduce the rework percentage, to make intelligent decisions on the fly. So if we get all the information at the click of a button from across all the tools, then we can take faster decisions. Whereas if I have to wait for 4 or 5 hours to get this particular information, then it's not very actionable, and it's already delayed the entire process. Then we can manage change with confidence. So change is something that is always happening, and as everybody says nowadays, that change is the only constant thing. So this kind of changes, whenever it's happening at any of the artifacts which are related to the lifecycle management, that change should immediately get reflected to all the other related items, and all the teams working on those items should get notified that we are working on a thing that is not up to date. So we should refresh our tools and get to see the latest item and work on that. Another important thing is plug and play of tools. So we keep hearing this kind of scenario that, okay, we were using that particular tool for development, now this project is new and we have to use this particular IDE which is mandated by the customer or whatever. So tools keep changing, but the roles they are playing, so the IDE was being used for development, now another IDE has replaced it. We have to have an integration system which can accommodate this, which can accommodate the new tool. Next we come to the how-to part, how to integrate. So if we all agree that yes, integration is required, it saves us a lot of time, it reduces rework, it lets us go faster to the market, it improves our quality, then the next question is how to integrate. So there are 3 options available. One is point-to-point integration, another is single vendor integrated tools, and the third is an integration platform. So coming to the first one, point-to-point integration. So this allows us to choose the best of breed tools. It can come from any vendor, but the integration code is handcrafted between pair of tools. This is often done by the company themselves, or they use a third-party integrator to do that. Whereas the single vendor integrated tools option, it provides all the tools, the IDEs, the other requirement management tool, test management tool, all these things are coming from one single vendor. The problem here is that you lose the ability to choose the best of breed tools. So any single vendor cannot provide you all the best tools for all the application areas. But if you are using the second option, you will have to stick to the tool that this vendor suggests and has the integration with the other tools. Moreover, each integration is based on the vendor's guideline or how the vendor thinks you should work. You cannot accommodate your own business rules over there. And the vendor in this case does all of the integration. And the third option is integration platform. So this allows you a mix of tools from different vendors. You can choose the best of breed tools from each of the separate vendors. You can have adapters or connectors to these tools. They will connect you to the middleware. In this case, the vendor, the customer, or a third party can develop the adapters or connectors with available open APIs. And a bus architecture can be used for flexibility and reduced complexity. So I'll come to the bus architecture in the next slide. So this is, I've gone to the next slide, which shows a diagram of an enterprise service bus on the left-hand side and a point-to-point custom integration scenario on the right-hand side. Over here, on the right-hand side image, you see that there is a complete mess of integration flows between all the 10 tools. If point-to-point integration is done between 2 tools or 3 tools, it is fine, it can be maintained. But when we go beyond that, when we come to 3 or 4 or say 5+ tools, it becomes very difficult to maintain the code, especially with the versions of these tools constantly keep changing. And if one of the versions change, you have to make changes to code from, I think, 9 code units have to be changed so that you can maintain the relation with the other 9 tools. Whereas on the left-hand side, in the ESB structure, you just need to change the adapter which was communicating with that particular tool. Everything else remains the same. And if you have to introduce a new tool in this system, just remove one of the adapter boxes and put in the new adapter for this new tool. The business rules, you don't need to change them. They are all configured in the enterprise service bus. So what is the Kovair solution for integrated ALM? So we provide a platform and services for integrating multi-vendor tools for creating a unified software development environment. This gives you an integrated view of ALM artifacts, starting from requirements to test, issues, risk, document, release, projects, and any other artifact that is very typical of your own project management system. Traceability tracking and reporting is also becomes very easy, and we have a central repository where data can be accumulated from all tools and reporting and dashboarding can be done from there. Next, the process automation is a big part of the Kovair solution, where we can make artifacts comply to a process which is defined inside Kovair, and this process can span across multiple tools. The integration technology that we offer is called the Omnibus integration platform. It is completely based on service-oriented architecture, and it is using the ESB structure. We have already built connectors for major tools in the market. We have reports of customer benefits of about 20% productivity increase. The reason for this, as quoted by the customers, are process automation, synchronized project management, and faster software development at lower cost. So these are the feedbacks from the real customers. Moreover, it has been reported that quality has improved. The rate of detecting defects and fixing them has improved a lot. And traceability across the tools, across artifacts coming in from different tools, has reduced a lot of rework. Lastly, we have a benefit that now our customers can use OSLC based linking with tools that do not yet support OSLC. So OSLC is the latest buzzword in the integration scenario, where items are linked from different tools instead of copying them or synchronizing them to the current tool. Next, I come to the Omnibus integration features. So Omnibus has quite a lot of advanced features when it comes to integration. First, we have the ability to sync and or link. So this is very unique in the sense that the same platforms allows you to synchronize data and also to link data in the OSLC way. So you can take advantage of both the systems. You don't have to choose for any particular one. It allows OSLC linking with non-OSLC applications. So the applications in the market which are not compliant with OSLC cannot currently be used in the OSLC based tools. Using Kovair Omnibus in between helps you to create links to artifacts coming from any of the tools which are already integrated with Kovair. Other advanced features like conflict detection and mediation is there. System recovery, so reliability mechanisms are there to push actions into other tools which had not gone through successfully earlier. Then it can be set up with load balancing and failover. It is compliant with organization security requirements. Data transformations are very powerful in Omnibus. Synchronization of relations between entities is also one of the unique features. So we not only can synchronize the data between tools, but also the relations defined in one of the tools can flow to another tool. The integration rules are managed outside the adapters, so end user can configure these rules. Code changes are not required for that. And we also support multiple tools for the same function, like requirements management can be done simultaneously in Requisite Pro and Doors. This is particularly useful where disparate groups are working on separate tools or customers with different tools. On the right hand side, we see that Omnibus supports both synchronization and federation of data. This lets us to get all the data, performance, access control, reporting needs, everything is centralized and can be accessed to Kovair. And we are not only pushing the data from one tool to other, but we enable process, traceability, project and resource management, and analytics and reporting from all the tools. So this is the overall architecture of Omnibus, where the bus structure is in the center, and on the left hand side the Kovair application is used to configure this bus to set in all the business rules, and we have adapters for each of the tools that are there in the ecosystem. So you can see we have Requisite Pro, Clarity, Quick Test Pro, SharePoint, so on. Today Omnibus has more than 34 tools already integrated. Multiple tools for each of the areas, like requirement management we have 3, configuration management we have Perforce, ClearCase, Subversion, TFS and RTC. So this is a pictorial representation that all the areas of ALM, we currently have one adapter or the other catering to that. So design, coding, configuration management, build, whatever. So this is a sample traceability view from the Kovair application, where you can get to see different artifacts in a tree kind of structure, where the first one is a requirement defined in Kovair. Next level, we see a requisite pro requirement and enterprise architect model, and some test cases from Quality Center, and some defects from Jira. So this is a real snapshot from the Kovair product where you can see the data integrated from across all the tools. This is a dashboard. All the dashboards are interactive, and clicking on this graphs, you can open up their base data, and all these data also are coming in from different tools. This is another dashboard which the managers get to see. These dashboards are also configurable. And this is a typical multi-tool integration scenario. This is a real scenario from one of our customers. They're using Requisite Pro for requirements management, RTC for task management, configuration management is being done in RTC as well as in SVN, build management in Hudson, test management using Quality Center, and defect management through Jira. So this is the scenario that we will be showing you today in the demonstration. It will be something like the Requisite Pro requirements will be added. They will flow to Kovair. From there, they will be replicated into RTC as a task and also into Quality Center as a test lab. Then the code will be checked into SVN, and that will be related to the RTC task. When the code is checked in, a build will be fired in Hudson, and this build will again give the feedback to RTC and Kovair that the build was successful. And then the tests will be executed in Quality Center, and if defects are raised, it will flow to Jira and also to Kovair. And these defects will also flow into RTC and get related with that task. And finally, the task will send all its feedback to the Requisite Pro requirement. So sitting in the Requisite Pro tool, people will get to know which stage actually the requirement is in, whether there are how many defects are there. All those information should be available to the person who is using Requisite Pro. So over to Shomunil for presenting the demo. Let me make Shomunil the presenter.
Thanks, Bonja, for the presentation. Okay. So with the presentation, so let me take up from where Pranjal left. So this is a scenario that came into us a couple of weeks back, and the scenario is that the organization, it's quite a big one, it's quite a big name, but cannot take its name at some end of purpose. So they came in and said that fine, we understand that you people do a lot of integration stuffs and you do have some integration adapters, but there are certain automations needed at certain levels. And the whole thing started saying that the tools involved in this entire integration scenario is not only just the transfer of data based on certain events and certain actions to be done, but needed some intermediate actions that are required, and that's where automation is coming into play. So we did this scenario, and we did this very, very successfully. the customer was absolutely overwhelming. So we thought of presenting it to you all to understand how we are going a step ahead of this integration bars using this SOA-based architecture in helping the customers in this integration world. So with this, let me start by submitting a requirement into the Requisite Pro tool. So the Requisite Pro is located in a different server. So let me log into that server to connect to the Requisite Pro tool to enter the requirement. And in this scenario, our integration adapters are absolutely web-based and web-enabled, and they can communicate with any of the tools that are available across the web. So, as you have seen, that this particular tool is residing on a different server, and this server resides in somewhere in US. So with this, let me go ahead and quickly enter a functional requirement. So selecting the type as functional requirement and entering a small title, let's say login page need user ID and password field. Okay, so copying it and giving it a brief description, and not only the title and the description, but we can also provide a priority to this. For example, we are setting the priority to be high, and let's save this functional requirement. So once the functional requirement is being saved, now let me take you back to the diagram. So what happens? So the functional requirement should flow into Kovair. The reason being, Requisite Pro being a non-workflow based tool, and that organization probably is having a review and a workflow mechanism process to install in place, so that the requirements being submitted over a period of time are to be going through a set of tasks by different stakeholders involved, and they need to set that whether this requirement is to be approved or not. But that was not possible in Requisite Pro. So to process enable the requirement submitted in Requisite Pro, we are passing it through Kovair, which has a workflow engine, and this workflow allows you to create tasks, and through this task management system, which we call it as the Omni process, Kovair allows you to review and approve a requirement and set its transition across the various phases. So let me log in as a reviewer in the system, and as I'm logging in as Adrian, who is a reviewer of the requirements as defined in the requirement approval process. So from the My Task page over here, you will be finding that Adrian has already got a task in his plate. So the mechanism behind the generation of this task is the requirement that we have submitted from Requisite Pro has been inserted into Kovair, and that has triggered the workflow for requirements to move forward and generate a task. Now, as an end user, if you want to see what's the process that's running at the background that's generating a task as an end user, it's available through a visual drag-drop designer, that the different activities involving in the requirement approval process. So the the yellow box that you can see is the activity, and the blue border around that box represents this is the current pending activity that's in place. Okay. So now let me quickly take you back to the My Task page, and as Adrian work on this particular task, find it to be interesting, and let's say he approves it. So Kovair tasks can Kovair tasks So the Kovair task management system is also associated with requirements, also associated with timesheets, and the time recorded or the time spent in working with each of these tasks can also be recorded with the system. So here is the task details, and you can see that it's showing the source item or the parent item that is associated with it, and also it is showing the requirement status field that Adrian needs to update with respect to his feedback. So finding the requirement to be interesting, he updates and sets the status to be approved. So once he is done, he saves it and marks the task as complete. Now as the task is done by Adrian, the My Task page is freed out of these pending tasks, and now this requirement is triggered as a RTC task in the RTC tool. Now in the process of creating this particular task, it also shoots out, if I take you back to this slide, so once the requirement is approved, it gets back to the RTC task, and at the same time the task triggers a test lab creation in the quality center environment as well. So let me take you to RTC and let me log in to show whether the task has arrived or not. Now RTC tool is being used as a task management system where all the tasks with respect to each of these requirements are getting created, and these tasks will be delegated to the different stakeholders involving in the implementation of the requirement to work on this. So going into the RTC task, I would be able to see the requirement that we submitted from Requisite Pro. So here is the one. So using this RTC task, at the same time, let me log in to Quality Center to show you that the same requirement has added as a test lab in the HP Quality Center tool. So let me keep the task list open over here, and at the same time let me connect to the server which is having Quality Center installed. So I'm logging into the different servers to show you that it's absolutely platform independent, and all these different tools are located in different locations, and data is flowing across in and across these tools seamlessly as and when the operations are getting done by the respective users working in each of these tools. So let me log into HP Quality Center. And let me log in. And this is the particular domain and the project that we are hooked up to. And in this particular project, under the test lab, we will be finding that particular RTC task available under here. So you can see the last one, which shows that this is the test lab. Login page needs a user ID and a password field. So test lab created with respect to the requirement. Now we go ahead and using this test lab, we go into the list of test cases to associate a test case to this. So test case for user login, and we link this test case to this test lab and leave it as it is. And now let's go back and focus on the development environment of this. So going back into the presentation, so what happens from here? So from the RTC task, now the development environment starts, and as a developer I would log into Eclipse to show you how, using the Subversion plugin for Eclipse, how a developer checks in the code which triggers an automated build in the build management tool. So maybe he is a programmer working in Java, and from the Eclipse he's working on the particular code files with respect to these requirements. So let me check out the particular RTC chain set. So it is 158. We would be needing it at the time of checking in the files from Eclipse. Okay. So let me log in as the developer and we connect it. So this is the particular workspace we are using it, and going into the package, let's have this particular file where the developer is working in. Let me add some stuff over here. And let's save this. And in the process, once my coding is done, I go into the team and commit to check in the file. So the task ID, which we have seen from RTC, I can provide that particular RTC task ID over here to create an automated link to the chain set, and the chain set file that's that has been automatically created due to the check-in of the file from Eclipse. So this is the Subversion plugin for Eclipse, where on checking of the file there are a number of events, number of actions occurred at the background, and one such action is a chain set is automatically created. The chain set file is being linked, and at the same time the file version is being linked. Now in the process, now let me take you to Hudson, and on the checking of the file, automated build has been triggered, and you can see that the number 26, that's the latest build that has been triggered, which has been automatically triggered based on the checking of the file from the Eclipse plugin for Subversion. So let me check on these details, and here is the details of the build. So it's showing that the build has been done successfully. So with respect to this, the status of this build is supposed to be updated in RTC as well. Now let me go back, and at this particular juncture, once the coding and the build is being done, now the testers come into the picture to start testing the build that has been updated. So the file checkings have been done. The Hudson build has been executed. It's been updated to Kovair as well as to the RTC, and each and every time you can see there is a reverse lane going back to Kovair, because that's a central repository tool which will be used by the management for having the data and the traceability stuff, the entire traceability chain from there. So now we are into this quality center test management stuff, where now a developer would be going in and doing the testing stuff. So now let me take you to the quality center tool. So without wasting any time, let's click on the run to execute the test. Let's give a meaningful name. Let's say QC test run for login page. And let's begin the run. Maybe due to the manual testing, let's say we fail this one. Let's say these two are passed. And we save this. So on the overall, the test case has failed, and this will be resulting in automated defect creation, which will be reflected from QC, and it will be reflected back in Jira, because the defect tracking is getting tracked in the Jira tool. So let me take you to Jira to show you that particular defect from there. So currently it's in this stage, and here you can see the defect caused due to the quality center or the test management. It's now flowing into Jira, and it's also reflected back to the Kovair ALM tool. So now taking to the Jira tool, let me log in. And showing you the HLD bugs. So this is the one you can see. It's currently in non-resolved stage. Now at this particular level, so here you can see that the test run is in the login page. Now at this level, let's say the developer who is working on Eclipse will be resolving the bug from the Jira, from the Eclipse environment. So I go into the Omnibus, and as we have plugins for exposing entity items for Kovair, at the same time we can also expose items from other tools as well. For example, we can show what are the bugs that are getting treated, that are getting tracked in Jira as well as a plugin over here. So you can see this Jira plugin over here, and this is the defect that you can see from Eclipse. And let's say the developer works on this, fixes the code, and from here itself, once he has fixed it, he updates the status of this defect from being in this Eclipse, sitting in the IDE itself. Once done, save this, and this is supposed to trigger the updation in all the respective tools like Quality Center, Jira, as well as taking the status back to Kovair as well. And in the process, there's one additional thing, is that once this defect is being replicated and it's being fixed, being into the RTC tool, we can show you that there will be an automated OSLC link created, and that will be shown as a link from the RTC task, showing the link of this particular defect. So now first let me take you to Jira to show the status updation from Jira. So let me refresh the screen. And yes, you can see that this particular status of this defect is now getting reflected as fixed and resolved. And now I'll take you back to RTC to show you the OSLC link And to show you the OSLC link, let me get into the details. And so it's not yet arrived as of yet. And here it is. So this is the OSLC link, and I can do a mouse over to show you the details of this link sitting in the Kovair application, sitting in the RTC. So with respect to this particular scenario, now till so far what you have seen is the different actions, whether manual or automated, getting done from Kovair, from Requisite Pro, from Quality Center, Jira, and blah blah blah. But where from the management would be seeing the entire artifacts which have been involved in this entire process. So to do that, Kovair has the mechanism of showing it through the traceability view, and if I take you into this particular traceability view, you will be able to see all the artifacts that are linked and created in the process as we have gone through is being reflected over here as well. So to give you a better visibility, let me just refresh the screen by showing the one which we started with. So it's the ID 49 over here. Let me refresh this. And drilling down from this particular functional requirement, you will be able to see that it is linked to the RTC task, and you can also see the RTC task ID is also being reflected over here. The task ID, as it is being created in RTC, it is being synced back to Kovair. So you get the RTC task ID sitting in the Kovair application as well. Drilling it down, we get to see that on one hand, RTC task is linked to the test lab on one hand, and on the other, it is addressing the chain set that we that got created when we checked in the file from Eclipse. So the chain set should be having the file, and the file should be linked to all the different file versions that the file has gone through, as the same file has been checked in over a period of time, over a number of times, and each of these versions are getting shown over here. At the same time, you can also see the bill that has been triggered from Hudson, and it's also showing the results from there. Now taking you back to the testing in the activities, it got created. The test lab got created, and from the test lab it shows the test run that we executed, and we failed the test run. As you remember that we had the test step created and we failed one step. So test run failure, and that gave rise to this defect from QC, which eventually we fixed from Quality Center, which we fixed from Eclipse, and got reflected in Jira as well as back in Kovair as well. So entire hierarchical chain using the traceability view, but that is not the end of the list. At the same time, if you wish to publish it in the form of a Word document, that also is possible using the Kovair Word report functionality, and such a complete Word formatted document is possible to generate from Kovair on the fly, with all the artifacts that has been linked and all the traceability relationships that are associating each of these artifacts to one another. So currently it's generating the document, and once the document is generated and ready for previewing, you can have it open in your system for viewing. At the same time, you can save it locally for your hard disk as well. So it's taking a little bit of time because there is a lot of data over there. And here is the generated document. Let me open it for you. So such documents can be used by, such kind of documents can be created by using the Word features and the Word features as well as the data from Kovair repository as well. So it's in the process of opening up the document for us, and here you can see the entire document generated on the fly. Okay, so a full-fledged Word document, and this shows what are the different artifacts that has been used, the requirements from Requisite Pro, and you can design this document using all this. And here is the one which we started with. It has the task, the change set, the link files, file version, bills, test lab, and everything. All information is available to you across the square. So you can have this document printed, published, and distributed across the different stakeholders. So with that, I conclude the presentation of my real-life scenario, and I am now open with Puranjoy to accept all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shomanil, for the nice demonstration. So, if there are any questions, you can send them now.
Thanks for the insightful presentation. Let's quickly take up the questions now. Please read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the commendable insights. Mr. Puranjoy, I have already assigned you one question, so I hope you can see it on your screen.
No, I can't actually.
I've already sent it. Is there a question tab there?
Yeah, the question tab is open, but I can't see the question.
I have just sent the question. I'm sending it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it now.
Okay.
So the question raised by Nageshwar Rao Majeti, do we have mailing facility in this? Yes, definitely we have mailing facility. So mailing facility can be turned on for every event that is occurring in any of these tools, and if the action is executed successfully in the target tool, then a mail can be sent, or even if it fails, a mail can be sent to the user, whoever is subscribed to that mail. So that can be set up. So another question, will this integrate to SAP ALM? This is raised by Amin Said. Well, at this moment, no, we do not have an adapter for SAP ALM right now. But if somebody requires it, we typically take 6 to 8 weeks to build an adapter for any tool. So we can definitely do it for SAP ALM. What is the typical duration for implementation with, say, 6 tools? So for 6 tools in a real-life environment, it should take somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks to set up all the tools, all the installers, all the adapters, and configure the rules, go through the test process, and finally put it on production. So it should take around 6 weeks from the installation to production. Will it integrate to QTP? Yes. This question is from Niharika Srivastava. It already integrates with QTP. So the process that Shomanil showed, where we manually failed the test case, so that manual action can be removed from there. If QTP is there, directly from the build successful, we can trigger the QTP automated testing, and based on that result, if it is a failure, a defect can be raised automatically. How does the licensing work? By number of users or number of systems? So the licensing typically works as a combination of both number of users and the number of systems. where user can receive mail of the current status. The user can receive the mail based on what mail ID he has configured in the Kovair application. So that's the mail ID where he'll get the answers. Question from Mr. Sandeep Singh. What is Kovair? So Kovair is the central ALM tool being used in this scenario. There can be other scenarios where Kovair is not the central ALM tool. You can use some other company's central tool. But it should be a tool capable of showing you the relationships between artifacts, traceability, cross-tool reporting, and dashboarding. So here in this integrated ALM scenario, Kovair is doing that job. Another question from Anukul Singhal. I may have missed this point, but does it integrate with LDAP or does it maintain its users separately? So both are possible. We can have its own Kovair platform users, or these users can be directly pulled in from LDAP based on some policy. Is there a cloud version? Not yet, but I would say the question is very timely because we are deciding on launching a cloud version very soon. So the entire integration bus will be in the cloud and the tools will be on premise. So that kind of a situation, we are trying to address that. It should be available in another month's time. Another question, does the licensing cost involve customer support if there are integration issues or any further help required after installation or any training need arises? Yes, so definitely the support is a part of the licensing cost. So there can be AMC agreements also for maintenance and improving on whatever integrated scenario is implemented. Does it follow all ITIL standards? Yes, it does follow ITIL, I think, V2 standards. Okay, V3. Shomonil corrects me saying that ITIL V3 is also supported. Let me see, is there any more question? I think I have answered all of them. Another question is, can we use this on demand like project based and not on a long-term basis? I think you will have to talk with the sales people for that regarding how short-term the licenses can be done. And you have to, irrespective of number of projects, it would depend on number of users. So you can have multiple projects as long as the number of users does not exceed the license limit, you are fine. There's a question regarding cost. I would request you to email it to sales@kovair.com. We cannot discuss costs on the webinar. So I think that's the end of the questions. Okay, another one here. Is there an interface which can be extended to the end client to see all the status of the bugs or issues raised by them? Depends on which end client you are talking about. So we have plugins for Eclipse and Visual Studio. Shomonil just showed in the demo the Eclipse plugin, which can show you all the artifacts from all the connected systems. So be it Jira, Requisite Pro, or whatever. So yes, you can see all the defects in Jira right there sitting in your IDE. the email address where you can send your questions is sales@kovair.com, sales@kovair.com.
Well,
I think that brings us to the end of the questions.
yeah. Well, those were the only questions we had, Mr. Puranjay and Mr. Somanil. Thank you so much for the insightful presentation. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was a great session. I would also like to thank all our
Thank you.
participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mohini.